Hi everyone. Perfect. The team saying that it works, the sound. So let's start. First of all, welcome to an open conversation about open source. This session is being recorded, so I will be uploaded to the Stua's YouTube account. So take it into account if you don't want to reveal some confidential information. And in order to keep the conversation fluid, we will be using a method called Fishbowl. That Stuart, the application that we are using, is a tool to have this conversation this way, and it aims to achieve this to minimize the friction to participate. So no script, no limitations in contributions during the conversation, so feel free to participate. You just have to take into account that if you want to participate, please click the button in the bottom of your screen to enter the conversation. Just a simple rule in order to this it could work, that there must always be an empty chair. You see that there are up to 5 chairs. We can enter till the fourth, but as soon as we will be 5 people here, then one person by its own should out. But feel free to participate, to enter when you want. So let's start with the topic, that it's, should I make my project open source? The thing is, in order to get into the topic, I want to share the Stua's story about this tool itself is open source. Open source, means that we share, we are transparent with the source code, the code that allows this technology to work. We have it on GitHub, so everybody could see how it has been done. So you can check it. You can participate with your contributions. So maybe with translations to your own language, maybe proposing new features, maybe with bug fixing, whatever you can contribute to the product, or you can just use it as we are doing now. And why we decide to go open source with Stua. So the reasons we thought it could be great to move from a private code technology, getting just close to the company. We moved from there to sharing with all the community, and there were more than plenty of reasons, but I think that there are 4 that are key for us, or they were key for us. It continues being like this, but the first one is giving back to the open source community. So when you want to learn technical skills, one good thing is to see how other people did their or are doing their work on other products. There are plenty of technologies that are open source, and so we get lots of knowledge and insights and learning from there. We thought that a good thing is to share it, what we are doing with the community as well. So the other thing is alignment with values. Stua, but the company that is pushing and offering the solution to the community, is aligned with some specific values. There are 2 that I think that are main to this topic. That is transparency, and also a way of doing the work iterative and incremental. So putting the code open source. We think that is a way of being transparent, so it's clear. And the other one is about knowing that we are doing our work, we can get feedback from people or from the community, and getting that and using it to improve the product itself and continuous iterating and growing. The third one value is technical learning. So as I mentioned before, looking how something is done is a good way, or other platforms are done, is a good way to learn how to maybe do your own or your project or product in this case. But also because it's different to do something and know that the code will be kept for the team is different than sharing that code or that repository with the community, because you have to keep in mind governance things about the code, how it's structured, the linked things about the code, how the specifications, the patterns, etc. And you need to be some kind of better in quality terms and how you convey or you the message. A simple example: the message you put on your commits are important. It's different if you just keep it for your team or you share it with the community. And last but not least, the one of the fourth reason in this case is extending reach. And extending reach means that if you offer the code for your in your community or in a community or different communities, but in GitHub, for example, in our case, as soon as you offer or share this code, more people knows that you are more people know that you are doing that and can discover your project in different ways, but just as if the user is just the end user that creates the fishbowl in this case, or it depends on your project. But in our case, putting the code open source enabled to reach other people, other communities than if we just move in a marketing traditional way to know Stua, know this fishbowl tool, etc. So starting that point, that the reasons that we took into account to share and to move from private code or private repository code to an open source, I invite you to participate in this conversation. I don't want just to talk just me. So maybe I can challenge you with a question: that have you ever participated in an open source project? Maybe some of you that are here in this event. And one thing, hi Jose, if some of you, I think I understand that you maybe understand English, of course, but if someone or anybody want to participate but it prefers to explain it in Spanish or other language, don't be afraid. Go ahead, and maybe some of us could make the translation in real time.
Hi, what up? I wanted to share my experience in open source because you were asking if we contributed before or something. Funnily enough, my first time contributing to an open source project was reading the documentation of one project to take examples of how should I document my own project. So I saw a typo and I was like, oh, I'm gonna change it. Yeah, I don't know, super random, but yeah, before Stu, I mean. So yeah, that was my first time. And also I like to add that sometimes being open source It's like more the people who works in open source is more likely to share their knowledge more than their code, like their process of learning and all of this. So yeah, I think it's one of the main points of important points of open source.
Thank you, Jose. So nowadays, I know, because I know you, that you participate in lots of communities, development communities, but other communities as well. What do you think is the importance of sharing and open source specifically in these communities? And another question, there's because it's clear that maybe in the development environment it's clear that the question of going open source or not it's there, but maybe in other companies that you are a member of, do you think that this way of sharing, how that communities are open to share or not, instead of it but not in coding, in the coding point of view. Maybe design, for example, because I know that you participate on communities, Friends of Figma, etc. How that communities are open to share different things and taking that's contributions into their flow.
I think it's actually one point of what you said before. Like you get more exposure actually if you are sharing your knowledge, your path. I'm sure there's a lot of more people wanting to learn something that people that already know something, you know. And it's like when you share your path, for example, in design. How did I learn to be a UX writer or whatever? I see that many of the open communities are get a lot of clicks, you know, a lot of people get involved, and once you saw that people is sharing, you also want to share what you know. I think this is the main feeling that makes people, you know, share. Because when someone is sharing you for free, it's like, dude, I also want to share my knowledge. And I don't know. I think it's the key in every aspect, more than code, you know.
Thank you, Jose. I don't want to say a specific name, but I know that there's people here that has lots of experience sharing their work. So, are you there? You want to contribute with your experience? Hi, Mike.
So,
I was not thinking in you, but if
No.
let's be.
Oh, yeah, but I'm just like popping in to say hi, and maybe I can share from my experience and what we've done at Buffer, which I think it resonates a ton with one thing that you were sharing, Fran, around values and how like there's a lot of, I think, that overlap of like companies that are thinking about like opening up and being transparent about how they work and sharing everything. For a good while, we had many repos in the open, like let's say like in GitHub, like public repos, even though they were not open source, like they were copyrighted and they were like there was no expectation of having like a collaborative development on those projects. It was like for many cases even like not possible to really like run them locally without you being part of the team or things like that. But it was a great way for us to experiment with sharing how we work and like the workflow and how we are architecting and thinking about things and so on. We ended up making the call like around 2 years ago to close some of these repos and only leave like proper like open source projects public in GitHub, properly licensed and so on, but things that were like non-open source to make them private because of other concerns that we had as a company. Like for us, it was tricky to balance the sort of like security concerns and being like more like thorough around how we adopted like new technologies or things like that in the open, or even if we were working with certain APIs, if we were like under NDAs, and we had to really think through and overanalyze whether we could be doing that in those repos or not, and that was impacting our velocity in a way, and we had to make that sort of like correction. But I think like personally, like to the question, like should I make my project open source? Yes, like whenever possible. I think it's great. I think always in a way like behaving as if your project was open source, I think leads to a higher level of quality overall, and I think promotes many good practices. But yeah, I think it's like maybe the question is like why you shouldn't have the projects be open by default.
And one question I have: did you get some feedback on these open repos or something back from being open?
It was great for us to, for example, like for many engineers to share in conferences directly, like to be able to just like point out at many things and navigate sort of in real time order. We like every now and then like somebody might open like an issue, but it was even like things that maybe it's like, yeah, that's a great idea, but maybe we are not prioritizing it anyway because we can't really like we are focusing on other things, right? That's where I think it also impacts governance, not having maybe like a public roadmap or maintaining a public roadmap on every repo and things like that were just like a challenge. Yeah. So it led also to the feeling of like, okay, we are maybe receiving like every now and then some like great inputs, but we are not acting on them. So that also leads to internal disappointment as well. Yeah.
Difficult.
Yesterday we were talking about this why following the question you mentioned, Mike, that why we shouldn't go open source, and we were thinking about two cases. The first one was about maybe you have a technology that is an unfair advantage, and you have a solution that it's different from all the solutions of maybe if you are developing and I don't know, just to talk about it, I think that maybe there are other options, but for all the people that maybe listen this conversation and I thought I was in that case, maybe I prefer to think about it. The first one is this: maybe you have a technology that is the technology itself is the unfair advantage, and you prefer to keep it for your own. The other case maybe is about these concerns about security. That maybe you have to keep it perfect. So if not, maybe there are some ways to. Hi, man. And maybe there are these two cases. Maybe the technology, if you are developing an open source, another technology for offering an open source e-commerces, for example, there are plenty of them, and you are not inventing maybe something new, but maybe you have a solution that perfect solution for 3D rendering in in browsers that are very I don't know, you get the example, but I don't know if there are other examples, because the third one was about maybe it's something to take into account. To maybe going open source means that you don't make money with this project or product, but it hasn't anything. There are two different things. You can have a project with open source project, and give to the community how it's done, and etc. But you can make money with it. There are plenty of technology solutions that are open source, and there are a lot of profitable. So another thing to keep in mind. So Jaime.
Yes, hello. I wanted, I don't know about the first part of the, you say there are two things. The first one was that you have an unfair advantage. I don't know about that, but the other one, I have to say that this is the concept security by obfuscation, where do you hide your code or hide you don't show you are closed source, and you maybe have problems that you don't know, and maybe you have problems you know it and you do nothing to do that because no one knows. Most of the samples are really, what, I don't know how to say it, but most of the time when it's open source, someone found the bug or the error or anything and can bring a solution about that, and most of the time they do. Meanwhile, on the other side, some people found the bug and they can do nothing about that. Even sometimes they tell to the business or the developers, and they do nothing about that because they can or they won't. And that's the comment about that part.
Thank you, Jaime. In fact, with Stua, as soon as we opened the code, we received lots of well, lots not, but we received some emails about some bugs even that people identified and they wrote us to say, I found this bug and we couldn't fix it.
The thing is, they found the bug and they complain about that, or some people try to make a solution and try to bring.
Most of the cases, because this is one thing that we learned, there are some companies or groups of people that they work on identifying bugs, and they offer the secret. I found this bug, and if you pay, I can bring you with more bugs that we identified. But
wow.
For us, it was something new because we didn't know that this exists, but was okay because at least that's first bugs they identified, they help us.
One thing that I'm curious, it's also with Stua, if the, let's say, like the open source community around it, if our users of the platform, if they are like, let's say, like trying to run their own version and they spot like things that they would like to improve and bring that back, or if it's more like people working on the side and wanting to contribute to an open project and just like interacting only with Stua through the code. Because that's something that we saw kind of like where we were reflecting.
As I know, in the case of Stua, there's no this case of people who install or deploy the project in their own servers, and then they write us to advice of some or tell us about some bug or features, but the main contributions we receive are about translations thing. So Stua is translated into French, German, Indonesian things. This is the main the kind of contributions. But because I think that the reach we get sharing the code is not at the point we want to be. So maybe we are continuous. It's a young project, so maybe one or in a period of, I hope, short period of time, we will have these contributions. So I don't know if there is, or is anybody wanting to do you have something that I want to say this? If not, I think that it's not necessary to use these 3 last minutes. I think that it has been a good conversation. Thank you, Mike, Jose, and Jaime. There are different topics that I think that are important. We have covered maybe reasons to go open source and are the key ones for me, in my opinion. And I think that thank you for your experiences. So also because it's always important to know the experiences of other people, to think about this specific thing. I didn't thought about it. So thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jaime. Thank you, Jose, and all of you that you were listening and be there. I invite you to keep tuned in LinkedIn with Estua, so you can keep in mind the following events to cover different topics about this adventure. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
And lots of kisses. Bye.